This BBC Model B has been sitting in my to-do pile for quite a while. The label on it says solid tone, which is accurate but not especially helpful. The power cable has aged in the way that power cables do, with the 1980s sticky tape texture, reminding you that plastics have a lifespan. There's no recap sticker, no RIFA caps inside, and before anything else, the power supply is going to need a full rebuild. The case has a crack and a small chunk missing from the front corner, and the ashtray cover has been smashed. So there's going to be some cosmetic work as well. So let's see what this beeb has been hiding all these years. Hi, and welcome back to Erie's 8-Bit Workshop. Today we're taking a look at a Model B that I powered on in the test chassis long enough ago that the only thing I remember about it is the note that I left myself saying solid tone, and that's all I've got. So this is going to be a discovery episode. No expectations, no predictions. We're just going to follow the machine wherever it leads. The case is heavily yellowed, cracked in the front left corner, and missing a small chip. Definitely needs a scrub. I'll decide later whether it's worth retrobrighting. The ashtray cover is smashed and I'll probably need to 3D print a new one. The original mains cable has gone all sticky with age and the PSU has no recap label. The BBC power supplies are famous for their RIFA capacitors failing loudly, smelling a fish and occasionally taking out the ICs on the main board. So we're not going to power anything on until the PSU has been fully recapped. Inside, the system board is dusty. Very few IC sockets, which usually means it's not been enthusiast repaired, and the solder joints underneath are bright in uniform. And that's a good sign. Whatever fault we're likely to find is not another 13 failures in one machine episode like last time. So the plan is simple. Clean the board, rebuild the PSU, reassemble the machine in its own case, and then we'll see what happens when we turn it on. And from where it goes, that's up to the beeb. So we'll start by taking the cover off the beeb. Out comes the keyboard, and we remove the system board followed by the power supply. Place the case to one side. Disconnect the spade connectors from the power switch. There are two earthing screws on the PSU. Remove the high side one and remove the cable gland from the power cord. And the power cable is disconnected. Remove the screws holding the power board in the casing. And the low side auxiliary power plug. And remove the low side earthing screw from the case. The board is now free from the case. Next, take plenty of photos of the capacitors. You want to note their orientation and capacity. I also draw a diagram. I do find it easier to refer to than the photos, but you can have the photos as backup in case of a query. Draw a rough positioning of each cap and dash mark to denote where the stripe is on the cap. The stripe is the negative lead. It's really important not to skip this step. Although most power supplies have a silk screen or printed legend noting which lead is positive, mistakes happen. It wouldn't be unknown for there to be a printing error. Replicating what's there gives the highest chance of success. And now you can start the desoldering process. On the beeb PSU, the leads are often bent over and soldered flat, which can make it more difficult to desolder. But suck away as much of the solder as you can. Bend the lead vertical again with pliers, a flat blade screwdriver, or even the end of the desoldering gun, and you can finish off the removal. With all the caps removed, let's take a look at these RIFA caps. There are two, a 100 nanofarad and a 10 nanofarad. And these ones are definitely on the way to catastrophic failure. You can clearly see there's a distinct bulge across the middle and the casing has cracked. If these haven't already gone pop, they aren't far away from it. It was definitely a good call to replace them before we try and power them. Capacitor technology has come on a bit in the last 40 odd years, so it's pretty normal for the modern equivalents to be quite a bit smaller than their 1980s counterparts. You can see here with the modern caps on the right. That's okay, as long as the electrical specs are the same, there really isn't a problem. You may have to put extra bends in the legs to get them to sit nicely, but that's about all. Okay, let's start popping them in. As you put them through the through hole, double check that none of the hole traces have lifted. Lie the lead flat in the same orientation as the solder that was used before. We'll need to put a nice lot of solder on it in the same way as it was secured before. Solder all of the caps into place and snip the leads. Once complete, we need to give it a bit of a clean. Now the norm for cleaning is IPA, but I don't like the stickiness that it leaves, so I do use a specific flux cleaner. To spray it on, give it a bit of a scrub and wipe it off, job done. Now we pop the power supply board back into the case. I'm going to replace the power cord entirely rather than just clean it. I'm using a short extension cord with a moulded plug. Cut off the socket end, remove the outer insulation. Remove the insulation from each of the wires inside. Install spade connectors on the brown and blue and a ring connector on the earth. Attach the power supply brown and blue to the switch and the power cord brown and blue to match, and insert the switch back into the casing. Connect the earth to the nut and bolt attached to the casing. Screw the board back into the case and attach the low side earth and accessory plug. Don't forget to reinstall the cable gland on the main cable. Install the power supply back into the case and add the system board and the keyboard. Now, before we connect anything up, we should really check the voltages of the PSU. The PSU really does not like being run with no load attached, so we have to be quick on this. Connect the multimeter and ground to the live of the low side power. Set it up for DC voltage measurement. And we have 5.14 volts, and that's perfect. Switch it off. Swap the red to the purple wire, and that's the negative voltage supply. And on this one, we have 4.46, which is close enough. Okay, the power supply is working and we can connect up the system board and give it a whirl. And switch on, and a solid tone, which is what we were expecting. So it's out with the scope. Let's see what we can see. Okay, there's pins 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, we've got good voltage to the CPU. And the reset is working fine. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, nothing. 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 All 0. Okay, the address bus is completely flat at 0. We've got about 3 volts on A9 for some reason, nothing on A10. 11. A12 is 0. 13. 14 is 1 volt. So the address bus is completely stalled. This is a pretty good indicator that we've got a problem, and the problem is the CPU. It could be other things too, but most likely for a flat address bus straight from the power on is a dead CPU. So let's pull it out and test it. So this board is a NOP tester. You can pop the CPU in it and see on the LEDs if it works. Now, what it shouldn't do is this. All the LEDs came on and then faded out, and that's a dead certainty of a failed CPU. Let's compare it to a working CPU I have in stock. Now you can see the LEDs are flashing, and this is a pretty primitive test. The data lines are hardwired to the binary for NOP, no operation. This tells the CPU to do nothing and carry on addressing the next byte of memory. This board doesn't have any memory, but regardless of what the CPU requests, the data bus just returns NOP. So you can watch the LEDs that represent the address bus count through the memory addresses. Now it is a pretty basic test, but it is very useful. You can find the designs on 8bitmuseum.de for free, or you can usually pick up a board for a couple of dollars on eBay. There is a different model board for each model of CPU. Okay, let's replace the CPU with this one. Now, before I give it another go, I've just noticed that there's a chip missing on this board. IC73 isn't installed, and it's the UPD7002 for the analog port. It wouldn't stop the system from running, but let's install one now. With that done, let's power on. And yes, it's working. We have a boo bip. Excellent. But before we call this fixed, I'm going to try installing a diag-ROM. This is going to run some memory tests and make sure everything is working okay. And yes, everything reports fine. That's fantastic. Lastly, I noticed that although we have a disk controller installed, there's actually no DFS ROM, so I'll pop one of those in now as well. And this system's working. Let's give it a clean. The keyboard is lots of dirt, fluff and remnants of snacks gone by. Clean with cotton buds and IPA, followed by a scrub and a wipe down makes quick work of it. Then over to the case shells and keycaps. I've decided I'll give this case a cosmetic makeover, but I'll leave that for another episode. But for today, soapy water and a scrub on the cases and keycaps will do fine. Job done. Well, with everything cleaned, reassembled and looking better than when it arrived, this BBC Model B is officially back from the dead. A full PSU rebuild, a pair of RIFAs that were seconds away from becoming a smoke machine, a dead CPU diagnosed and replaced, and a missing IC73 restored. A clean bill of health from the diagnostic ROM, that's a solid day's work. It's always satisfying that when a machine that started out with a solid tone and a completely flat address line ends up booting happily again. And with the electronics sorted, we can turn our attention to the cosmetics in a future episode. This case deserves a proper makeover, and I've got some plans for that. Well, if you've enjoyed this restoration, found something useful, or just like seeing these old systems get a second life, please do feel free to like and subscribe so you don't miss another cosmetic rebuild when it drops. And if you've got a Beeb or any other vintage machine with a story behind it, please do let me know. I'm always keen to see what's out there. So thank you very much for watching Erie's 8-Bit Workshop, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.